Hey everybody, how is everyone doing this evening? I'm trying to get some things clarified here. That wasn't supposed to do that. There. Sorry, I'm back. You gotta love live streaming. You really, really, really do. Um, I have lots and lots and lots of news to get to. For again, all the drugs coming into the country. Um, Also, uh, how the how can I say it? The legislation, the executive order, where the DOT is now cracking down on non-English speaking drivers, and what that's going to affect. Um, to updates on stories that I have previously reported on. I have updates on that. To how a truck driver was in a horrific crash, and the title of the show, how his pup was with his French bulldog was with him, and was in a crushed cab of the truck. What happened there? And how drivers are going to be placed out of service if they don't speak English. I will expand and define what that means. And how in my own backyard, how in this North Mississippi, how a truck stop made national trucking news. Small little bitty town in North Mississippi made the national headlines. So please stay tuned, and thank you as always. Also, I want to give a shout out to Max Velocity and YouTube on his YouTube channel. There are a lot of tornadoes going through Oklahoma and into Arkansas right now as I am recording this, as I am streaming this. So if you are on Interstate 40, if you are up in the Fayetteville area, or Siloam Springs, or any part of that area in western Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, please beware of the weather. Severe thunderstorms like crazy. It's coming into my area, North Mississippi, headed into Little Rock, Memphis, everything tomorrow, overnight tonight and tomorrow. So please make sure that you're weather aware. Don't try to outrun it. Park it. Go in a ditch. Don't stay in your truck. Find a safe place. So it's Max, MAX, Velocity at youtube.com. Great weather channel. Young man went to college for meteorology and just graduated college. Definitely has anytime there's severe weather, tornado outbreak or whatever, he will stay online like for 60 hours at a time. So definitely check him out. As always, like I mentioned, lots of news to get to, so let's get right to it. In our first story, 76% of inspections resulted in out of service orders during a commercial vehicle operation in Maryland and on the DC Parkway. Multiple law enforcement agencies partner for a commercial vehicle inspection operation along the Baltimore Washington Parkway. This is the end of April, April 22nd to 23rd. The commercial vehicle inspection detail took place then along the Baltimore Washington Parkway, connecting Baltimore, Maryland to DC, which is, I believe, around 495, 95, that the loop and everything. According to the police department up there. 148 commercial vehicles were inspected during that operation. A total of 650 violations were identified. Of these, 76% of the vehicles were placed out of service, which means if you are not in the truck driving community and you're watching my program, it means that you cannot drive a vehicle until you get what's the matter fixed. So you will be parked and you will have a orange sticker slapped on your window, meaning that you cannot move until you get everything fixed that they found wrong with your vehicle. United States Park Police, which also took part in this operation, additionally reported 170 citations were issued and that the operation resulted in one arrest for driving while intoxicated, DWI. They also remind drivers that commercial vehicles are prohibited on all National Park Service roads. And we got thank you, James Ellen 567 for just following up on Discord, and also on Twitch. So I got that little bit of an interruption. So thank you, James. I greatly appreciate it. And there's more. There's more. I just started streaming here a couple of months back. But if you want to watch some more episodes on our YouTube channel, James, you can. The links are going to be in the description box. Back to the news. So there was a lot of stuff going on those inspections on the parkway. And what's inside that White House executive orders, our next article on English language requirements for truck drivers. You need to speak it. You need to speak it and you need to be able to write it. It's not that hard. It's not that complicated. Now, there again, I'm always a little late. So on end of April, the White House issued a sweeping new EO executive order intended to strengthen federal English language requirements for truck drivers and to crack down on fraudulent commercial drivers. On April 28th, President Trump made headlines when he signed this executive order targeting several trucking industry issues, including English language proficiency for CDLs. I'm not going to read the whole EO, but yeah, it's designated as our official national language as of March 1st, 2025. Should not it be non-negotiable safety requirement for professional drivers, meaning me no speak no English doesn't work anymore. They should be able to read and understand traffic signs, communicate with traffic safety, border patrol, agriculture checkpoints, cargo weight limit station, or weigh scale station officers. Drivers need to provide feedback to their employers and customers and receive related directions in English. This is just common sense. It says right in the EO. This is why federal law requires that to operate a commercial vehicle, a driver, quote, must read and speak the English language succinctly to converse with the general public, understanding highway traffic signs and signals in the English language, to respond to officer inquiries and to make entries on reports and records, logbooks, be able to sign your name, not just an X, on shipping papers. Yet this requirement has not been enforced in 10 years, and American roadways have become less safe. So, good on you, President Trump, as far as making sure that, English language is our predominant language here in this country. Which, there again, it should be. And here, check this out. That's a Lamborghini in that back of that truck. Commercial vehicle inspection leads Wyoming troopers to a stolen Lamborghini. Who'd have thunk it? Just one second. My tablet always likes to drag. A Wyoming State Patrol trooper made a surprising discovery during a commercial vehicle inspection last week. A trooper took this inspection. Took place back at April 23rd. Trooper conducted a commercial vehicle inspection, discovered that a luxury sports car was inside the trailer was stolen. I mean, who's going to haul around a Lamborghini? The trooper conducting a thorough investigation determined that the vehicle had a cloned VIN, which was an attempt to conceal the stolen vehicle. The car was seized and made available for the owner to retrieve. Several out-of-service violations were then issued. Great work to the trooper on staying vigilant and being thorough, says his bosses. So yeah, they come up with a stolen Lamborghini. It takes all kinds, let me tell you. And a truck driver in this story is sentenced to prison for hauling $2.5 million worth of cocaine from California to Illinois. This week at back again in end of April now. So the stories that I'm reporting on are the end of April, first week of May. I always run late, James. Definitely running late. So when I say, this week or something like that, it's really when these stories took place was the end of April. A California truck driver, back to the article, was sentenced to a federal prison for attempting to transport a large load of cocaine from California to Chicago. Barstow resident Ronald Coleman, 45, was sentenced to 11 years in the pen, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Coleman previously pled guilty to one count of possession with intent to distribute for 5 kilos or more of cocaine. Coleman was pulled over by Illinois State Patrol on I-88 near Morrison in April of 2023. During this traffic stop, with the assistance of a canine unit, police discovered 2 suitcases filled with cocaine. As a part of the plea agreement, of course, he pled out. Coleman admitted that he knew he was transporting more than... My cat decided to hit my... Of course, he pled out. Coleman admitted that... My cat decided he wanted to watch me live, so he hit my phone. There again, gotta love a live stream. As a plea agreement, Coleman admitted that he knew he was transporting more than 91 kilos of cocaine with a street value of $2.5 million. Coleman then told authorities that he was transporting the cocaine to a warehouse in Chicago, where he was to exchange the drugs for cash and transport the money back to California. So this was a round for him. Bring the drugs out of California, swap it out, get paid out with money, turn around, take the cash back to California again. Heck of a racket. Officials also say that Coleman admitted to carrying a firearm to protect himself, he says, the cocaine and the cash during transport, and that Coleman expected to be paid for transporting the drugs to the Chicago warehouse. The case was investigated with the assistance of the Illinois State Police. And USDOT, points to 2 deadly crashes to show that truck drivers who don't understand English are actually highway hazards. And that is, as you could see, a very horrific crash there. The U.S. Department of Transportation has followed up on action by the current administration to enforce English language proficiency, which... in other words, ELP, requirements for truck drivers by pointing to 2 high-profile fatality crashes that officials say were caused by drivers who did not speak English. President Trump signed an executive order to rescind a 2016 policy that loosened enforcement on long-standing federal regulations that require commercial vehicle operators to be able to speak, read, and understand English succinctly, to read road signs and communicate with law enforcement and other members of the public, as I just explained. Following up on this, on behalf of the DOT that directly pointed to a pair of high-profile commercial vehicle crashes as examples of the lack of this English proficiency and can harm safety on America's highways. They documented, FMCSA has documented where drivers' inability to read our signs and speak our language may have contributed to a series of fatal accidents. 2019, a semi-truck driver traveling down a crowded highway at almost 100 miles an hour blew past several warning signs that warned of steep grades and dangerous curves. The driver ultimately hit multiple vehicles in a fatal crash, killing 4 and injuring others. I reported on that story back in 2019. This gentleman was traveling across Interstate 70. He was just a local driver intrastate out of the state of Texas, never really been out of Texas, never ran the hills or anything, 27 years old, and killed 4 people because he lost his brakes coming down Vale. And well, actually it wasn't really Vale, but that real long steep grade coming into Denver on Interstate 70. So that's one of the cases, like I said, that I did report on. The driver ultimately hit multiple vehicles in that fatal crash, like I said. In January of 2025, a fatal collision in West Virginia, the second case, involved a driver fleeing another accident who required an interpreter for the post-crash investigation. So the first crash, like I said, this Menderos was initially issued a 110-year sentence after he was convicted on 27 charges, including the counts of vehicular homicide, in October of 2021. However, the sentence was reduced to just 10 years. So they knocked off a 100-year sentence off of him because the Hispanic community got in a hissy fit about a 110-year sentence. You had no disregard. And his excuse was he couldn't understand English, but killed 4 people. So, anyway, I'm not going to go on. I could go on and on and on about that, but I'm not going to. It would take up a lot more than an hour program. So, let's go on to other stories. An arson investigation is underway at Illinois trucking and warehouse facility. Illinois fire marshals are investigating a structure fire that occurred at Dalton Trucking and Warehouse Business. This happened on April 29th, shortly before 8 o'clock in the morning. Firefighters responded to Yvette Trucking and Warehouse, a business located at 1300 block, Dalton, Illinois. When crews arrived on the scene, the building was engulfed in flames. Multiple agencies responded to the 3-alarm fire, but the facility was then destroyed. Luckily, no one was injured. The deputy fire chief told the local news the fire is suspicious in nature. We do have the fire marshal out here currently with our arson team. The outlet also reports that business was raided in December of 2024 by the Illinois Secretary of State. State police because vehicles parked on the property were allegedly connected to a stolen auto investigation. So you never know what you're going to find in a fire or anything else. So it is kind of questionable, what really caused that fire. And a tanker driver in this next story was airlifted after crashing into a slow-moving motorist on Interstate 40 in North Carolina. A tanker truck driver was airlifted to a hospital after crashing into a slow-moving motorist on Interstate 40 in North Carolina on Tuesday morning. The accident happened just before 6 o'clock in the morning, April 29th, along eastbound Interstate 40 in North Carolina. According to the local news, a tanker truck hauling fuel crashed into a slow-moving motorist, causing the semi-truck to overturn. He must have hit him awful doggone hard. 2 oncoming semis were unable to completely avoid the wrecked tanker truck, but only caused minor damage to the fuel hauling semi. A pickup truck driver then swerved to avoid the overturned truck, but was unsuccessful and collided with the tanker truck. The collision caused the tanker truck to then catch fire after the pickup truck hit it. So two semis were coming at him, barely missed the tanker after he laid it over. Then a pickup truck come flying through. He couldn't miss it, hit the tanker, and then erupted into flames. A box truck driver then swerved to avoid that crash, skidded into the median cables, and came to rest in the median. The tanker truck fire caused by the crash was a slow-moving motorist damaged the roadway and injured the truck driver. Truck driver was airlifted to a hospital for treatment of his injuries. I mean, as you could see, it's, engulfed in flames there. That's not the tanker truck in the background of the picture next to the trees. It's the one that you cannot see in the flames. Firefighters worked to extinguish the fire, which eventually caused an explosion. The ground was on fire, said the fire chief. Vehicles were on fire. The road was on fire. You see this on TV and in the movies, but it's nothing. You don't go out and discard the water when the fire is so hot. Your water is just evaporating before it even gets there. You pretty much got to learn to burn itself out. So yeah, it's something that hot, you can't even get near it. And luckily, more cars didn't explode or anything else with a fire that hot, So, and a bond is reduced from $1.2 million to $7,000 for a driver in this that causes fatal 18-vehicle pileup on I-35. Now, I reported on this in my last episode. A truck driver involved in that fatal pileup on I-35 last month had his bond reduced massively. The pileup happened back in March near Austin, Texas. 5 people were killed and 11 more were seriously injured. And 37-year-old Solomon, because I cannot pronounce his last name, was initially charged with 7 felony counts related to driving while intoxicated based on police assessments and was jailed on $1.2 million bond. A toxicology report then determined that there was no detectable traces of drugs or alcohol in his system at the time of the crash. After the release of the results earlier in the month of April, the driver's lawyer filed a motion to have his bond reduced to $1 per charge so that he could be released. April 29th, the judge approved of the reduction of bond from hundreds of dollars per charge to $1,000 per charge. According to the Austin local news, new pretrial conditions have also been imposed for his release, including he's got to wear ankle bracelet, no curfew or restricted zones, use of an ignition interlock device on his vehicle. He gets random drug screens, pretrial services supervision, and prohibited from operating any semi or commercial vehicle. He's still facing multiple felony charges for the crash, but the results of the toxicology report have brought the intoxication-related charges into question. So, cops got that one wrong, didn't they? And a driver accused of forcing a car into a frozen lake back months ago is now been extradited to West Virginia. If you remember in the last couple of shows, I was saying updates about how this driver was out in California. He wasn't going to come back voluntarily. And I mentioned that they'd have to extradite him back to West Virginia if he's not going to come, be a man and step up and face the consequences of what he did. And yeah, they're having to extradite him back to West Virginia now to stand trial. So that, really goes without saying on this one. And again, my tablet's got a glitch. We are, like I said, we're having severe weather, so I don't know if that has something to do with it. But yeah. So I hate this as far as that goes. Let's see if I can pull it up again. Sorry about that. One moment as I'm trying to pull up the article. It's being a pain in my butt, and I have to do it this way because if I don't, then the little screen right here, you will see everything I'm doing, and I don't have multiple screens. I have a all-in-one, and that's all it's going to do. So let's go on to the next story and see if that one will pull up. A dump truck driver who killed a crew of linemen did not even have a CDL. Well, so nothing's working for me now. I apologize about this. And I don't have, there's so many articles that I don't have a way to memorize them all. I really don't understand what's going on with this goofy thing. I hope the whole doggone show isn't going to be like this. It's going to be very aggravating. Here it comes. I just had to exit out and try starting it all over again, so my apologies. The driver of a dump truck that killed a crew of linemen in North Carolina did not have a valid CDL. This incident occurred in Eden, North Carolina, as a crew of linemen were working as contractors for Duke Energy. According to the local news in North Carolina, the dump truck was the City of Eden vehicle driven by 66-year-old Michael Ray Vernon. Investigators believe that the dump truck ran a stop sign before crashing into the crew of linemen. 4 of the 6 people hit passed away in the accident. They were identified as 71-year-old Douglas Garland Sides, 35-year-old William Evans, 32-year-old Madison Carter, 30-year-old Matthew Lockwood. 2 people hit in the incident were airlifted with serious life-threatening injuries. 1 person in the bucket truck was taken to a nearby hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Vernon met investigators at the magistrate's office, where he was officially charged with 1 count of failing to stop for a stop sign, 1 count of operating a commercial vehicle without a valid CDL, and 4 misdemeanor counts of death by motor vehicle. He's being held on a $50,000 unsecured bond. So wow, he ran a stop sign and ran into a crew of 4 linemen. Holy moly. And 71 years old. And this brand new driver pulls a man from a car before it catches on fire. My tablet's giving me fits, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm trying real hard not to whip it out the window. A brand new truck driver that rescued a man from a burning car after it crashed into his trailer. Truck driver Charles Vicker was driving along Interstate 16 in Dublin, Georgia, when a car crashed into the back of his semi. Vicker was able to pull over to the shoulder, but it wasn't until he got out of his rig when he realized the car was wedged underneath the trailer and was starting to catch fire. He said the driver wasn't able to move. He wasn't able to get out. Watching him burn alive, I just couldn't do that. I just couldn't live with that on my conscience, end quote. Vickers told the local news. He ran to the car behind his semi-trailer, and just as the car caught fire, managed to pull the driver out of the car. Vickers then used his fire extinguisher to put out the flames. Two other truck drivers even managed to stop and help and use their own fire extinguishers to extinguish the flames of the car. That was me pulling that dude out of the car. I didn't know somebody was recording it though, he said in a response of the video of the rescue. Vickers says he's a brand new truck driver, has only been driving a rig 6 months. So thank you so much, Mr. Vickers, for helping this motorist out. It does not say in the article what happened that he got rear-ended like he did. Possibly, inattentive driving would be what I could imagine of being on the road. James, you don't know that I've been, James, you don't know that I've been on the road 36 years myself, and solo lady veteran driver. And I started this show 7 years ago now. And just this year I've been deciding to do live streams. And in one of our top story, driver loses his brakes on a bridge. And his dog was also with him. This happened in Fulton County, Pennsylvania, where the local fire company said the tractor trailer driver lost their brakes, causing him to crash while traveling, causing a closure in the area of Route 30 at Scrub Ridge. The driver was able to free themselves from the wreckage and was taken to the Fulton County Medical. They released more information about the crash, saying the driver lost control while going down a sharp decline. He was going too fast. He went off the road and into a grassy area to try to slow down before getting back on the road. He ended up flipping it. He hit a guardrail and a utility pole, causing the vehicle to roll and break apart before sliding down an embankment. A passerby alerted crews about a bulldog also stuck in the cab of the truck, and crews were able to rescue it. So this Ms. Lynch and the fire department a witness to the crash said that Meredith, excuse me, not Miss Lynch, witness of the crash, Meredith LV, pardon me, reportedly alerted firefighters that there was a French bulldog still trapped in the wrecked semi, and crews were able to rescue the dog named Chloe. And there's Chloe right there. Her statement is, quote, last night on our way home from Rourke, roughly around 11:40 p.m., we witnessed the worst trucking accident she's ever seen on the Scrub Bridge. The driver lost his brakes and ended up in a ditch. The driver had his dog with him, a little French bulldog named Chloe. He wasn't able to take his dog with him when they left the scene, so B and I offered to take care of her until we could figure out how to get them back to each other. The state that the truck was in shows that he was protected, and this man and the dog were protected by unseen force. I'm not going to say what she said. Chloe came out of the accident with not a single scratch, and the driver is in stable condition, she said in a social media post. According to the local fire chief, LV agreed to take the dog home with her overnight while the truck driver was transported to the hospital, then coordinated with the driver and his family to return Chloe to them at a hospital in Hershey. Follow up from that crash on Scrub Bridge. If not for this young lady telling us there's a dog still in the cab and how it survived after getting her up to the road, now what are we going to do? The driver was seriously injured, and luckily he had a cell phone. A phone call was made to a relative in Florida. Meredith agreed to take Chloe home with her. We're happy to pass along these pictures. We're taking as Meredith has returned the pup to the owner and relatives at Hershey Medical Center, where the driver is recovering from his injuries, said the fire chief. So, truck driver and dog survived this horrific crash. Yeah, that's a truck. That's pieces of the truck. And this story, truck drivers are to be placed out of service for a lack of English language proficiency. This is starting next month in June of 2025. I'm thinking I'm going to need to update my tablet. So this is just expounding on the story that I talked about with the executive order, but I wanted to share with you when it's going to be starting. That they're serious about this. They're not playing. It's going to be next month. So in just like 2-3 months, they're already, And what out of service means, let me define that. Out of service means that when you get inspected and your truck is placed out of service for mainly brakes, steering, this kind of thing, they will slap a big orange sticker to your window or your windshield. You will be asked to pull over, or they will, if the cop is nice, if he's nice, they will let you go or follow you to a truck stop where they'll frequent and they'll watch and make sure you don't leave, and you will be placed out of service where you cannot drive. You're shut down until you get those repairs fixed, or until now in this case, if your lack of English language proficiency, you're going to have to get somebody English speaking in order to drive that truck away, is my thought. Let's see what they say. The Commercial Vehicle CVSA Safety Alliance announced major action on the English ELP for truck drivers in compliance with direction from the White House. They announced starting June 25th of 2025, non-compliance with this existing federal regulations, where commercial truck drivers be proficient in English language is an out-of-service violation. They're not saying how to get around it. There again, you have to be able to answer questions. The me no speak no English, need an interpreter. That ain't gonna fly anymore, y'all. So you come into this country, you better be able to speak the language, or don't bother getting a CDL. You have to be able to speak the language, and any other job, well, besides door dashing, which I door dashed too. When I was home, I was door dashing too. You wouldn't believe how they got the translation on the phone and just show them the screen when you go into restaurants and stuff. It's nuts. And a Greyhound bus strikes 3 semis parked on the shoulder of a rest area exit ramp. Now, there again being old school and starting back in 1988 when I started and got my chauffeur's license and then grandfathered into the CDL, you would not believe we never parked on ramps back then, ever, because of accidents like this. They cannot see you. They're not looking for you. Nobody is. Cars, other trucks, buses, like a Greyhound full of people. They're not looking for you to be parked on the shoulder of a rest area to sleep. And this was before the rest area. This was on the off ramp. So, and that's the worst place to park. So that's what happened to the bus. After he hit the first semi, that you see the trailer is all mangled, then he went and hit the next semi where it says that's the motor. You'll see the motor coach in the second arrow. You go to the arrow on the right, that was the flatbed that he hit, and then he came to rest against the Mac, the last one. He went right down the line of the shoulder. I'm thinking, just my personal opinion now, is speculation, allegedly, the bus driver may have been dozing off to do something like that. Look at that damage to the first semi-trailer he hit. I mean, those tandems are pushed up, and that trailer is up in the air. It's nuts. But what's even worse, this happened in 2023. First now, the National Transportation Safety Board, 2 years later, is first now going to investigate what the hell happened. And it was a multiple fatality crash. This crash happened July 12th of 2023. So this July will be 2 years ago. A motor coach operated by Greyhound Lines traveling from Indianapolis, Indiana to St. Louis, Missouri was westbound on Interstate 70. Quote, as the motor coach approached the westbound Silver Lake rest area, passed by it all the time, about mile marker 27.4, the motor coach departed, got off of I-70 onto the rest area exit ramp, where it collided with 3 semis that were parked on the ramp's right shoulder. As a result, 3 motor coach passengers they passed away because of the accident. The driver and remaining passengers sustained injuries ranging from minor to serious. The semi-drivers who were inside the bunks at the time of the crash were not injured. Officials noted that the westbound Silver Lake rest area has 64 total parking spaces, including 21 that are designated as semi-truck parking spaces, with one of these being a handicap space. They plan to determine the probable cause of the crash with the intent of issuing safety recommendations to prevent similar events. Like no parking on the shoulder, for example. What I've been saying for 30 years. You don't park on the shoulder. You don't park on the side of the interstate to let your dog out. You know? It's safer to get off on the on-ramp. You get off the off-ramp, you cross over, especially if there's a bridge, or I call it a viaduct, and you cross over because then you have to be slow to come on, your gaining speed as you go down the on ramp. Get off the off ramp, cross over, come back down, then pull over on the shoulder of the road to let your puppy dog out. You don't stop on the side of the interstate unless you've blown a tire or you got an air leak and it's emergency situations only. I don't know where everybody figured out it was okay to sleep on the side of the interstate, because crap like this happens. This is my point right here. This is what happens. And they were on the shoulder, but still, they were way off the interstate. But can you imagine that happening on the interstate when everybody's doing, well over speed limit, let's just say? Yeah. So, yeah. Still amazes me what drivers do. Florida troopers locate the semi-truck driver following another double fatality crash. This happened on Interstate 95. Florida, at the time, Florida was on the lookout for a semi-truck believed to be involved in a deadly crash in Palm Bay. The crash occurred May 2nd around 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time. They report that 2 people have passed in what have been described as a hit-and-run crash. They're looking for a semi-truck with possible damage to the front grille and the front right headlight. And then, as an update, May 2nd around 4 p.m., the semi-truck was located, and the truck driver was arrested on I-95. The crash victims have been identified as surveyors who were standing on the shoulder of I-95 near their vehicle when they were struck. And, then he took off on top of that. So now, here is a story regarding the town that I live in. Okay? Mississippi truck stop is raided after complaints about selling kratom and Tyen. I am not any familiar with these substances at all. Tyenaptine? Tyenaptine? See, I can't even pronounce it. I did look them up, though. And kratom is ground up, and it's for coming down off of opiates. And also tyenaptine is what's called truck stop heroin. So rumor has it in town that this has been going on for several years. The new owner, now there again allegedly, the new owner of the truck stop didn't want to pay extortion money to the local sheriff, allegedly, and that this is the reason why the truck stop suddenly, mysteriously got raided. But yet in the news article, because my little town made the national trucking news here, just out of the blue, they got raided. And they're saying recently conducted a search warrant on a truck stop after receiving complaints about the sale of illegal substances. From who? This has been going on. I've been living here 10 years. I've been seeing that stuff in the truck stop forever. Nobody ever said a word. So I wonder if the rumors aren't true. About, hey, give me a little cash. I'll look the other way. Just saying, allegedly. Contacted a local sheriff. He wouldn't take my call. Wouldn't comment. They conducted multiple undercover operations, which led to the discovery that this truck stop, located Highway South on 45 South, like you're going to West Point, Tupelo and West Point, was in violation of the ordinance prohibiting the use, purchase, possession, distribution, sale, or offering the sale of synthetic cannabinoids, which they're not even synthetic. or other synthetic products, which has been in effect since 2019. Yeah, BS. So, there's kratom, lots of kratom, lots and lots of kratom, Z-tabs with kratom in it. They didn't say anything about tananapine, um, and it was in possession of 27 bottles of Zaza White used in the making of tyanapine, Schedule 1 controlled substance. There again, it's truck stop heroin is what they call. Um, so it's just, and they also found sildenafil, which is similar to Viagra, and it was also, I guess, prescription. Um, the truck stop clerks were issued citations. Bader turned himself in on charges of possession of a counterfeit substance with intent to distribute and possession of a controlled substance. He was later released on bond. Yeah, he refused to pay. So then all of a sudden, this all come down on him. And I'm just like, now there again, allegedly. So this is the rumor mill in town that this is what's going on. It's kind of it reminds you of the movie Walking Tall, where you got the dirty law department. Done it? That's what I'm thinking. And here's some more dirty law enforcement. Former trooper in Massachusetts is guilty on 48 charges for giving false passing scores to 40 CDL applicants in exchange for bribes. This is just some of the items that they bribed him with. Former sergeant with the Massachusetts State Police was found guilty on dozens of charges related to a commercial driver's license bribery scheme. One sidebar to the previous story about the town that I live in. If it happens in my little town in North Mississippi, where I live just 2 miles south of the Tennessee line in the woods, it can happen in your backyard. So it's everywhere. Don't think that, this just happens in the big city like Massachusetts or someplace like that. If it can happen in the woods by my house, it can happen any doggone where. It's all over. Anyway, back to the current story. The state trooper was found guilty on dozens of charges related to this bribery scheme. Gary Cedarquist, 59, was found guilty by a federal jury in Boston on the following charges: 2 counts of conspiracy to commit extortion, 1 count of extortion, 6 counts of honest services mail fraud, 3 counts of conspiracy to falsify records, 19 counts of falsification of records, 17 counts of false statements. He was acquitted of 1 count of conspiracy to commit extortion, 2 counts of extortion, 3 counts of falsification of records, and 3 counts of false statements. He's scheduled for sentencing in July of 2025, so here in a couple of months. So they knocked some of the charges down, in other words, I guess, for him, I want to say admitting to it, but working with agencies in the investigation and for cooperating. That's the word I'm looking for. So, yeah. And a driver is rescued from a dangling semi-truck, and it's one of 3 trucking accidents in the same location. Truck driver is rescued from a dangling semi-truck in Louisville was just one of 3 crashes. This happened on Saturday, May 3rd, and the other two occurred on the next day, Sunday, May 4th, all on the Kentucky Bridge on Interstate 65, south of Louisville. According to the local news, Saturday afternoon crash involved a car hauler that overturned, throwing several cars over a concrete barrier and onto a nearby ramp. No injuries were reported in that crash, but the incident did require approximately 5 hours of cleanup, causing backups. And then the second wreck in the same location occurred Sunday morning. The semi-truck lost control for an unknown reason, sending the rig crashing through the concrete barrier. Semi came to a stop with a cab dangling off the bridge, as you see here in the photo. Louisville Fire Department rappelled to the cab of the truck to rescue the trapped driver inside of the dangling semi-truck, which took about 30 minutes. The driver was in good spirits, said the fire chief. When a firefighter was with him, got him in that harness, he got out. He actually was waving to the first responders there and thanking people, so he was in pretty good shape. But I bet you he had to clean his britches. I bet you he took a big old dump in his britches when that happened. Thank goodness I have never had to experience anything like that. And there's the other part of the wreck, and that was the car hauler. And the first picture was the second wreck that happened Sunday. So this is the first wreck that happened Saturday, and you can see the car right there that hit the off-ramp. So luckily, I don't believe that they didn't report that anybody got hurt. And a truck driver is arrested on suspicion of DUI after hitting several parked cars and 4 poles. He obliterated that vehicle, didn't he? This happened in San Bernardino, California. Recently responded to an extensive property damage involving a semi-truck, you think? Incident took place shortly after 4 in the morning on May 3rd in San Bernardino, California. Police say that a semi-truck collided with several parked cars and also struck 2 utility poles and 2 light poles near Arrowhead and Rialto Avenue. The driver of the semi-truck sustained minor injuries. Police reported that the collision caused extensive property damage. Yeah, like knocking the motor out of the car. He was arrested on suspicion of DUI, and he was a private contract driver. So he was like a lease op driver. So he wasn't really with any company per se. And they're saying this truck driver is sentenced to 22 and a half years for colliding with a bus full of hockey students. And he didn't have any remorse about it. The truck driver with no remorse for the accident was sentenced to more than 22 years after colliding with a bus full of hockey players, high school. Victor Santos of Brooklyn, New York, pled guilty to 26 counts, each of criminal recklessness and causing serious bodily injury while operating a vehicle, on May 5th in Indiana. According to the local news, Santos was driving a semi-truck in reckless manner on the night of November 12th, 2022. He was sentenced then. Or he pled guilty then. My bad. He's being held over for sentencing. But the accident happened back in 2022. Santos was operating a semi at high speeds around 90 miles an hour and ignored a red light in the moments just before hitting a bus full of St. Ignatius College prep hockey team players. The collision caused the bus to overturn, injuring 20 people, mostly students between the ages of 14 and 17. At least one student was ejected from the bus, and 3 people were considered critically injured. All of the crash victims survived the incident. Thank goodness. At the time of the accident, Santos was then arrested on suspicion of driving while intoxicated. When it was later discovered his blood alcohol content was twice the legal limit for Indiana. I don't remember if it's for a commercial driver, it's .04 if he was driving a rig. So it was twice that legal limit. So that meant he was about .08. Witnesses described him as appearing emotionless with no remorse. Well, when you're that screwed up and when you're that full of whatever it is you took, nah, you don't even know what the hell you did. Wendy Cook said, I stared him straight in the eyes then and today. Mother of one of the 15-year-olds. On the day of his sentencing, he showed no remorse, no recognition of the pain he put everyone through that night. No, he's not gonna be. And it was the same look today. So, he did not accept responsibility for all this harm he caused these young men and these families, said the attorney Tim Kavanaugh, is representing 18 players, their parents, and 2 coaches in a 98-count civil suit against Santos and 2 trucking companies. The suit states that the truck driver and company showed willful disregard for the safety of the people on the bus. And this case is still pending. That's the civil case that's still pending. Santos' initial hearing was postponed in November 22 due to language barriers and difficulties finding an interpreter. At the rescheduled hearing, he requested a reduction of his bond. He was previously convicted of rape in 1999, so of course he's not going to show any remorse, and multiple FMCSA violations, DOT. He will now serve 22 and a half years in prison as part of a plea deal. Been credited with the 2.5 years already served since his arrest in November of 2022. So it wasn't a ginormous plea deal, but he did get it for 2 years, like time served. And that portion of it. And do you know what happened to Lillian Desiree Discotio? She was found dead. If you happen to know or have any information of what happened to her, there is a $6,000 reward. And this reward is being offered for any information on the death of a lady trucker found on the side of East Texas Highway, but this happened more than 10 years ago. 51-year-old Lillian Desiree Discoto was found along an entrance ramp on I-20 off of FM 450 in Hallsville, Texas on October 7, 2013. According to the local news, 2 truck drivers were stopped on the shoulder to inspect their tires when they noticed the body of a woman lying on her back near the side of the road. She was described as having short blonde hair, 1 stud earring, and a light blue hoodie. When officers arrived, they determined that her body had only been there for a few hours and that she had likely been sexually assaulted, beaten, and strangled. Investigation revealed she had been living a transient lifestyle. Places that she worked at were Alaska, Colorado, Ohio, Georgia, Maryland, Louisiana, and East Texas. Her last known residence was in Irving, Texas, outside of Dallas, where she worked as a truck driver before being found on the side of the road on the East Texas Highway. Investigators are now offering a $6,000 reward for information leading to arrest related to her death. Anyone with information on the case interested in collecting the reward must submit their information either by calling Crime Stoppers hotline at 1-800-252-8477 or sending a message online with the note "Cold Cases Featured" and "Cold Case is a type of crime and offense." So if you were in the area of Hallsville, Texas, around Interstate 20 off of FM 450, October 7th, 2013, and possibly have seen anything about this person, or if you have seen this woman before then, go ahead and please contact that Crime Stoppers hotline. Again, the number is 1-800-252-8477. Who knows? You may have information that'll gain you, if it checks out, $6,000. And up next, Louisiana authorities investigating after multiple trucks are destroyed by fire. And you guys are going to love the next story after this one. So that's the trucks being blown up and burning. Authorities respond to a major vehicle fire in Kenner, Louisiana on Wednesday morning. That's outside of Nolens. This happened May 7th, about 5 o'clock in the morning. It happened in business parking at East Airline Drive. Firefighters reported multiple semi-cabs on fire at the scene. One firefighter was treated for smoke inhalation, and the fire was under control an hour later by 6 o'clock in the morning. Hazmat crews responded to the scene to deal with the diesel fuel that spilled that caused by the fire. They're also asking the public at that time to avoid that area. But yeah, when that stuff goes, it's a hot ass fire. Trust me. And this driver got it for DUI and was reckless with her semi, reckless driving, and multiple altercations, and it's a female driver. So I'm just going by her name. Her name is spelled Thuning, Nellie, Nele, Dunig, 53, was indicted in Clarksburg, West Virginia on May 6th for her August 2024 reckless driving incident involving multiple altercations. She initially struck a vehicle on I-79 and fled the scene before getting into an altercation with a customer at a gas station. When confronted by police at the gas station, she fled the scene in her semi, leading officers on a chase across multiple counties. She then eventually came to a stop after driving over some stop sticks that were deployed by police, which caused her semi-truck to roll over or lay over. Thuning then kicked out the window of the truck and engaged in a struggle with officers until she was eventually arrested. After the police chase and multiple altercation, Thuning was incarcerated. She was indicted on one count each of fleeing in a vehicle from law enforcement with reckless indifference, fleeing DUI, DUI with injury, operating a commercial vehicle while driving under the influence, and leaving the scene. Yeah, she's looking at some hard time for all that. And you don't put up a fight. I don't care who you are. You don't put up a fight. You know, what do you think? You're going to get away? Yeah. All right. Excuse me while I take a drink. Can't drink Coke fast. And two sentenced in this story after police find 110 pounds of cocaine in a rig parked at an Ohio service plaza for an unusually long time. Whatever gave you the first clue that something could be the matter? That's what I gotta love. How long were they staking out the vehicle? Two men without legal status in the U.S. have been sentenced to prison in connection with a scheme to use a semi-truck to transport illegal drugs. Indian nationals, it's a Singh, how you pronounce that? Singh? 30 years old, and another Singh, 25, were each sentenced to 10 years in prison after pleading guilty to possession with intent to distribute of a controlled substance, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. This happened back in 2023. Ohio State Patrol troopers and U.S. Border Patrol noticed that a semi-truck parked for an unusually extended amount of time at a travel plaza in Wood County off of I-280. Officers checked the truck's DOT number and learned that it had a previous association with drug trafficking and was therefore not authorized to haul interstate commerce. In other words, they pulled the DOT number. Police began surveilling the truck. The next day, officers noticed that the truck had been relocated to another service plaza along I-280, where it remained parked for another extended period of time. Quote, because the authorities observed the truck being stationary for a total of over 24 hours at two different travel plazas, they proceeded to contact the DEA Toledo field office for assistance. Agents then had a consensual encounter, that doesn't sound right, does it, with the two defendants associated with the truck. During the encounter, Singh denied being parked at the previous location where the truck was observed the day before, said the U.S. Attorney's Office. Never mind. A Border Patrol canine was then deployed. The dog alerted to the presence of drugs on the passenger side of the truck. Probable cause search was then conducted. Once they alert, there, your ass is grass. Officers found several duffel bags filled with 49.9 kilos of cocaine. Quote, upon further investigation, the agents discovered that defendants lack legal status in the U.S. They will be subject to removal from the U.S. upon the completion of their sentences. This case was investigated by the DA Task Force Toledo Field Office in partnership with the Ohio State Patrol, blah, 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 blah. They always got to get their kudos in there. So, yeah. Almost 50 pounds. Might as well round it up and say 50 pounds of coke. Kilos. 50 kilos of coke. So, yeah. And up next, a truck driver is charged after a loaded semi-truck rear-ended 4 vehicles at a stoplight, killing 2 of the people that were stopped at a stoplight. He didn't just rear-end them. According to, now, there again, I can't show the video because YouTube guidelines and, I have to get special permission and on and on and on and on with all the algorithms and everything. If I don't get special permission from the person who did the video, I can't use it. So, to show y'all. But, he didn't just rear-end them. He plowed into them, according to the video. They were stopped at a red light, 4 vehicles, and he wasn't paying attention, and he plowed right into the back of them. He was charged with manslaughter following a double fatality crash in Thomasville, Alabama. This crash occurred on May 6th on southbound Highway 43 at South Industrial Park Drive intersection at Thomasville. According to the local news, a loaded semi-truck struck 4 vehicles from behind that were stopped at a red light. Ashley Marie Springer McDonald, 37, Woody Earl Black, III, 53, both passed away. 4 other people were hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. The semi-truck involved was owned by Chicago-based number 4 U.S. Transportation Company. There were 2 men inside the truck at the time of the crash. This driver, Andre, I cannot pronounce his name, Dimitrko, 45, and Dan Kucher, 31. According to the police department, both men were in the U.S., were here on work visas. He was booked in the Clark County Jail, this gentleman here, and issued 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter. The case remains under investigation, and additional charges could be issued. And that was as of May 6, so I'm sure, the charges were done issued by now. There again, any updates to any of these stories, as you saw with the West Virginia car crash, that I will be posting and updating here. And a driver is trapped by an active electrical hazard after crashing into a Starbucks. No, he didn't have a caffeine fit and needed a coffee. He was actually having a medical emergency. So he could have been having chest pains, heart, asthma maybe, asthma attack, who knows, coughing fit, who knows. But because of how he crashed, and he crashed into the building through the wall, he broke all the wires, and then you had live electrical wires. They had to shut down the power to the Starbucks before they could remove him from the cab. Tires are actually best insulator. So the accident happened at the Starbucks along Coast Highway on May 7th. This is San Diego, California. Truck driver suffered a medical event behind the wheel, causing him to run a red light before crashing through the wall of the Starbucks. The building sustained significant damage, and one employee was injured. The truck driver was initially trapped inside of the truck, preventing first responders from reaching him safely. Once the power was cut, like I said, to the building, the rescue teams were able to pull him out. Both the truck driver and the Starbucks employee were not seriously injured, but both were transported to the hospital for care. They're very lucky and thankful that there was no, major injuries or anything to either one, thank goodness. And our last story for this week's episode, it passed in an unexplained 3-rig chain reaction crash that happened in Maryland. And again, just as a reminder, anybody traveling along 40 in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Fayetteville, on up into southern Missouri, please be weather aware. Max Velocity at youtube.com has play-by-play with the tornadoes and everything, minute by minute, what's going on, does the radar, does the towns, and how long you have, what's going on. So definitely check him out. Back to the news. One driver is passed after an unexplained chain reaction crash on I-70 in Maryland. This happened around 6:30 in the morning. According to the local news, all 3 commercial vehicles were traveling east on I-70 when a Mack work truck crashed into the back of a semi. That crash forced the semi into the back of a flatbed semi, hauling wooden roofing trusses, which scattered the material across the roadway. A 38-year-old driver of the Mack truck, Mr. Wilson, passed away at the scene of the crash, and no other injuries were reported. Crash blocked I-70 at Maryland Route 32 in West Friendship as crews worked to clear the spill load from the road. Excuse me. Trying not to sneeze again. I don't know why I do this on live streams. Traffic was detoured until the reopening of the interstate around 11 o'clock that morning. The cause of the accident involving multiple semis was still unexplained at the time of the writing of this article. So I do want to thank you again for joining me. Welcome everybody that's new to the live stream. I greatly appreciate you tuning in. If you're on rewind, there again, thank you so much for viewing the video. I had the day off. Last week was my birthday, not bragging, just saying. This is why the show is running late. I spent the week in New Mexico with my son and his family, my grandson, and my daughter-in-law. So, had a really good time. Got to take a break. It's about a 13-hour run in a car, one way, from where I live all the way out to New Mexico. So I really had a great time. Thank you, everybody, for understanding. And until next time, keep the shiny side up. We'll see you next time.